Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Yet another episode of Crushing Fantasy Football. I am Bryce Lockridge, your host of the show. All right, guys, today I'm going to be talking to you about round 3 of your draft. Now, this is a very polarizing round of the draft because not as many people research this as they do round 1. And this is when some of the most pivotal picks that you need to make or not make happen in your draft. So I'm going to be helping you guys navigate round 3. Now, you can do 2 things with this video. 1, if you have your draft upcoming, you're obviously going to implement this into your draft strategy. 2, I have some players on here that you really need to draft in round 3. And if for whatever reason you didn't take them in your draft that you already had, well, you could go back and trade for these guys before the season starts, before these guys explode while, they're still being looked at as a round 3 or 4 value. They might be better than that as far as their overall output. So you could trade for these guys before the season if you've already done your draft. So I'm going to be talking about 3 players you need to draft in round 3 and 2 players that you need to fade. And if I mention a player that you need to fade, that you did indeed draft in round 3, please try to sell them before the season starts. All right, guys, I'm going to start right here with the first player that you should draft in round 3, and that is Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, this is a guy that obviously has tremendous speed, a 4.36 40 time, 99th percentile as far as his overall speed. This dude is an absolute weapon. He has a 110.1 speed score, which is speed in relation to your size, and so that's actually considered extraordinary by the statistics nerds that come up with these things. A 110.1 speed score is considered extraordinary as far as his speed in relation to his size. Pound for pound, this dude is going to be one of the better athletes in this league, right? And we know that he's incredibly versatile, right? He can line up in the backfield. He can line up in the slot. He can line up outside. He can be used as a wideout, as a slot receiver. This dude can do anything, right? And we've already had tons of reports coming out, and we've known this for quite some time, but now it's becoming more and more apparent that this dude's going to be used as an overall weapon. He's not just going to be a running back. He's kind of that hybrid modern-day wide receiver where you're a running back and a wide receiver at the same time, right? I think I just accidentally called him a wide receiver because that's how sure I am that he's going to be involved heavily in the passing game this year. But this is a running back that's going to be an overall weapon, not just a guy lining up in the backfield, right? So we know he's incredibly versatile. And if you look at the Lions, this team is going to be super explosive this year. Starting on Thursday night against the Chiefs, we're going to see how explosive this offense is. They can be a top 5 offense overall in football this year. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they are. And if you look at their schedule, they have one of the softest schedules for any team in the NFL. This team is primed for a massive season as far as overall touchdowns. So even if David Montgomery is stealing some of Jahmyr Gibbs' touchdowns like people are worried about, this team's going to have so many scoring opportunities that it doesn't matter. This team could have a combined 25 rushing touchdowns this season, which is an absolutely insane thing to predict, but it's certainly possible. Now, they're going to have so many passing touchdowns, too, that maybe they don't have 25 total rushing touchdowns, but it is possible. I'm saying David Montgomery can have 7 or 8 rushing touchdowns, and Jahmyr Gibbs can still reach double-digit touchdowns easily. So I wouldn't be worried about his touchdown upside. This dude's going to get in the end zone. He's going to rack up crazy PPR points because of his ability as a wide receiver. This dude's going to be an absolute monster. He might be the very best overall pick in round 3 of the draft. This dude's going to smash this year. Next player on my list is going to be Calvin Ridley. Now, I am positive that Calvin Ridley is about to have a great season. I've been calling this all offseason. Calvin Ridley is going to be the wide receiver 1 in the offense. Earlier in the offseason, people were trying to tell me that Christian Kirk was still the wide receiver 1. Now you see in drafts that these two aren't even going close anymore as far as where they're going in the draft. It's not even remotely close. Calvin Ridley is the wide receiver 1 in this offense. And it's because this is one of the most talented wide receivers in the league. You look at his last full season in 2020, this dude led the league in air yards, led the league in deep targets, 7th in yards per route run, and he was 4th in overall receiving yards. And that's with leaving 968 yards on the table. He had 968 unrealized air yards, which are yards that were thrown his way that he didn't convert into a reception. You got to figure that a lot more of those overall deep targets are going to be converted with a third-year Trevor Lawrence slinging him the rock as opposed to a late-year Matt Ryan. So I seriously think it's possible for Calvin Ridley to have a better season than he did in that 2020 season, which is mind-blowing because that season was so good it was almost an anomaly. I literally think he'll be better this year in this Jaguars offense with a third-year Trevor Lawrence. Calvin Ridley's a smash play. Grab him in the 3rd round. He's going to be a beast. Next player, the last player I have here that I absolutely want you to make sure you draft in the 3rd round is Amari Cooper. Now, Amari Cooper, 6 out of his 8 seasons that he's been in the NFL, he has been a 1,000 receiving yard wide receiver. You look at his season last year, 5th in the league in air yards. And, he had 1,160 receiving yards, which was 11th in the league, with a bunch of nobodies throwing him the ball. Now you add an elite quarterback in Deshaun Watson to sling him the rock. Amari Cooper's put together a great NFL career. He's one of the best wide receivers in this league, and he's shown it over his 8-year career. And He's never had a quarterback as good as Deshaun Watson throwing him the ball. What do you think is going to happen when a quarterback of Deshaun Watson's caliber comes in to throw Amari Cooper the rock? This dude's going to freaking explode. And this Browns offense is going to be unstoppable. With Nick Chubb in the backfield, their incredible offensive line, a dual threat quarterback that can take off and run, there is no way defenses are going to stop this team. This offense is going to light the league on fire. Amari Cooper is going to be one of the main weapons in this offense. This dude is going to blow up with Deshaun Watson throwing on the ball. You need to make sure that you draft Amari Cooper in round 3, or if he slips to round 4, which he's sometimes doing, go ahead and take him there. Now, I've got 2 players that I want to make sure you don't draft, and the first one is Najee Harris. Now, this is a guy that everyone's just huge on this year because they're chasing volume, and I try to preach this on my channel all the time. Fantasy is not all about volume and opportunity share. That's one of the biggest things in fantasy, don't get me wrong, but you have to have that volume coupled with some sort of efficiency, and Najee Harris does not have it. This is a dude, 4 yards per carry last year, 52nd in the NFL as far as yards per carry efficiency. The season before that, 2021, 4.4 yards per touch. Right? And I'm sorry, that 4.0 yards wasn't yards per carry. That was yards per touch. That's even worse because your yards per touch should be slightly higher because passing is involved. 4 yards per touch, 52nd in the NFL, and then 4.4 yards per touch his first season. This dude's never been efficient. He's never had a play of more than 50 yards. He's never even had a run of more than 37 yards. This dude does not produce big plays because he's not fast enough and he's not elusive enough. And despite being a powerful guy, he's not the best tackle-breaking running back in the NFL. Don't get me wrong, he can knock your head off, and he's good at grinding out yardage, between 1 and 10 yards. But outside of that, he just doesn't have big playability. And then you look at him in 2021, he had massive target share. He was top 5 in the league in target share with a 14.5% team target share. And then this past season, it dropped down to 9.7% because they're actually passing the ball downfield. Keep in mind, Najee Harris's first year, we had a late career noodle arm Ben Roethlisberger that could not throw the ball downfield anymore. So naturally, they were checking down to Najee on every single play. This is not going to happen this year. They're clearly set on throwing the ball downfield to George Pickens, throwing the ball to Deontay Johnson, getting Pat Freiermuth involved. Najee Harris is not going to see that insane target share that he saw his rookie year. He's not going to get as many carries because if you look at the opportunity share, it dropped from 86.4% in 2021 when he led the league in opportunity share to 69.9%. He saw a 17% decrease in his opportunity share this past season because Jaylen Warren started to come on the scene, and we know that Jaylen Warren's going to be used even more this year. We saw it in the preseason. I've been calling it all offseason. Jaylen Warren's going to cut into Najee Harris's workload significantly. So even though this offense is going to be better, the dude doesn't have big playability. He's now going to have less of a workload than he did in Season 1 and Season 2. So the volume's going to be down. The efficiency's never been there. Don't draft Najee Harris. I think he's going to be decent because the offense is going to be better, and he's certainly going to give you some big weeks, but he's going to be very volatile and inconsistent and lack an overall massive ceiling that you should have in a player that you're drafting in round 3. Don't draft Najee Harris in round 3, guys. Next player on my list is going to be Deebo Samuel. And so last player I have here, 2021, 8 rushing touchdowns. Massive fluke. Okay, 14 overall touchdowns. 6 of his receiving touchdowns in 2021 came on 50 yards or greater plays. Now, no matter how big of big playability you have, this is completely unsustainable from a season-to-season standpoint. He had a fluky number of big play touchdowns that year. He had a fluky number of rushing touchdowns, and that's why he had an anomaly-type awesome season. That's a completely unrepeatable season. He will never have a season that good again, largely because of the fact that Brandon Ayuk's going to get a lot of work. George Kittle's going to get a lot of work. McCaffrey's in the backfield now. They didn't have McCaffrey when he had those 8 rushing touchdowns, okay? They have a legit running back duo now. They have no reason to use Deebo Samuel all that much in the backfield. He's not going to get anywhere close to 8 rushing touchdowns. He's going to regress significantly from that huge season in 2021. We already saw it last year in 2022. The dude was not nearly what he was because he's not utilized the same way in the offense. So Deebo Samuel is going to see some serious regression. Don't chase that 2021 season. He's never going to have a season that good again. I'm telling you right now, he's not worth his value. Next year when he drops to round 7, take him then. All right, guys. Appreciate you tuning into the video. Catch you later.